Hello and welcome again to Excelsior Trading. I'm Don Carlo here in the Berkshires. Again, not coming to you in my house robe. It's a real treat. You get to see me with clothes on. My gray t-shirt and got blue jeans. Yeah, not my robe. Huh. I really honestly thought when I started this uploading videos that I was always going to be in my robe, but don't worry, trust me. If you think my robe is sexy, I guarantee you I'll be back in my robe again shortly. Mm. This you'll always see in my videos, a little bourbon and some cold PBR. Ah, mm, yummy. So yeah, we're doing another watch review. Let's do it upside down first. Haha. This is my Seiko Lord Matic. Just came in this week. A very special watch. You know, it did not come on its original bracelet. It actually came on a mesh bracelet, a Bambi mesh bracelet. But you know what? I really love it. The mesh is very fine. It feels very good on the wrist and it adjusts to every wrist size, without any micro adjustments or anything stupid like that. And I was contemplating buying a Lord Matic bracelet, a new old stock or something, and throwing it in the drawer just so that if I ever do sell this watch, which maybe I will, maybe I won't, I don't know. I do flip watches occasionally. Maybe I'd have an original bracelet to sell it with, but honestly, for the culture, the time, the era, this is a 1970s watch. I'd have to look up the date again exactly, but it's late 70s. And it was right about the time right before they stopped producing mechanical movements for about 20 years. The Just such a real special piece, and it's so retro 70s, so classic 70s. Mesh bracelets and Milanese bracelets were so popular in the 70s. And being a Bambi bracelet, which is made in Japan, so same as a watch, and even vintage old stock Bambi bracelets are still going for $50, $60. I think it really completes the piece. And obviously, it's way better than a Seiko bracelet anyway, so I consider it an upgrade. I don't mind that it didn't come with the original bracelet, and at this point, I've already decided I'm not even going to replace the strap. It's just so comfortable on the wrist as is. I'll give you a shot of my Lord Matic. Sorry for the grainy video quality. Maybe someday I will upgrade that. Maybe someday I'll get a nice camera to review watches. There we go. That's in there nice and close. It's just so nice. The crystal actually came really clear on this. I'm pretty sure it's a boxed Hardlicks crystal. I don't know if the company polished it. They didn't bother to polish the case much. There's plenty of scratches on the case. I highly doubt it's a sapphire crystal. I'm gonna guess that it's Hardlicks. The day date, and that smooth high beat second hand. So what I'd like to talk about this for Seiko fans, every Seiko collector, every Seiko fanboy should have one of these in their collection. This has the 5206 movement, the 5206. The 5200 family is important for multiple reasons. Number one, the 5200 was a high-end watch movement, even though it's in this Lord Maddox, which you can get these all day long on eBay for just a couple $100, sometimes below 200. I think I paid less than 200. Um, and why the 5200 family is so important to Seiko's history is when Seiko in the 1990s decided to get back into mechanical watches because they saw that collectors were getting warmed up to going after mechanical watches again. Out of all the movements from the 70s and back that Seiko made, they selected the 5200 series to resurrect. The 5200 series um, became the 4S, the first mechanical movement they started developing in the 1990s. So that makes I wanted a 52. I actually Googled, I eBay searched 5200. That's where I came to finding this. But then I not only wanted a horological movement, I not only wanted a bit of history, but I wanted a piece of the time. Okay, let's get the movement from that time. And they make more modern looking round, such this and that. But I really wanted to scream 70s. Square was in the 70s. Square was the thing. And, the fact it has this upgraded Bambi bracelet, I'm going to leave it on. It just screams the time. Whoever bought this in the 70s definitely was living the style of the 70s. And I like it. And the 70s is actually before me. I didn't come around till 1980. So this watch predates me by a couple of years. I really wish the quality of my video was better. I mean, it gets a little better on the close-up zooms. It's not as grainy, but it really doesn't show how awesome this dial is. I mean, there's a black line running from the day date feature through the 9 o'clock. You can almost just pick it up if I get really close. There's that line that balances out the day date section, and it runs all the way across the watch to the 9 o'clock. And I want to talk about some other things. And I understand why they selected the 5200 movement. And the 5200 family of movements were used in Grand Seikos of the 70s. They were used in King Seikos of the 70s. I did look into buying a Grand Seiko or a King Seiko of the 70s, but I just didn't find one that I wanted to spend the price because those can still be a bit pricey. They're $500 to $800 for one in good shape. I'm really happy that this came with such a clean crystal. I can't stand marks on the crystal, but I'm gonna have to wear it lightly since it's not sapphire. And I've discussed this in previous videos. My favorite, my favorite styles of crystal is acrylic or sapphire. I don't like anything in the middle. Sapphire I love because it's absolutely bulletproof. I used to work security and I'd rub my sapphire crystals on concrete and steel, on guardrails and stuff, and door frames as I was wrestling people. I've never put the tiniest mark on a sapphire crystal. Every sapphire crystal is flawless. And I also like acrylic because acrylic gives it such a classic look. And I've buffed up acrylic crystals in seconds with a Cape Cod cloth. If they start to pick up any marks or anything and you can't stand that, just put on your gloves, take your Cape Cod cloth and rub it just for a few minutes. Wipe it off, wash it off if you can wash the watch if it's got a screw down crown or whatever. And that crystal is just brought right back to life again. Hard licks, I really don't like it. They did harden the mineral crystal, but it just makes it impossible to fix it at home without some sort of equipment, and it's costly to have it fixed when you send it in for service. Mm. So other reasons why I want a 5200 other than the resurrection, that's the one model of all their tons and tons of models of 70s movements that they resurrected in the 90s. This was one of their last series of movements. The 5200 was one of their last series of movements before they just gave over to completely to quartz for like 20 years from the 80s all the way through to the 90s. Trying to see on the dial. No, they actually didn't list the movement on the dial. Like I said, I'm almost absolutely sure. Yep, it's on the back. This is the 5206 and this is the 5020 model. So 5206. Some things I love about this movement, and I understand and appreciate why they resurrected this one. Even for a 40-year-old watch, over 40-year-old vintage watch, this thing has a high beat movement. It beats at the 28,000 beats, you know, per hour, which is really high beat, keeps accurate time. I haven't run it for 24 hours yet, actually. This is the first day I'm really winding it up and playing with it. It seems to be keeping time pretty well after I set it a few hours ago. Let's see, we're coming up on a minute. Coming up. Yeah, it's running about 2 seconds slow, even though I set it to the minute. So it's already lost about 2 seconds, but I think that I really should get this service before I wear it a lot or frequently or say to work or anything like that where it might come into contact with water just to get its gaskets and seals replaced, get it lubed up, get it just running its finest, maybe get it polished up. I wouldn't probably polish a case so much that I've already owned if the marks are my character, but if it's pre-owned, I don't mind restoring it completely just to add my own character to it. But I don't know. Maybe I'll leave some of the marks for, showing this watch's history. So anyway, I was discussing the 5200 for a 40-year-old watch. I mean, this has hacking, it has hand winding, it has the day-date complication, and it even switches over right at midnight. Day and date both snap right at midnight or close there too. And that's something that even a lot of modern mechanical watches don't do. I work at a hospital and I work 12-hour shifts at nighttime. I don't like seeing a half day date like trying to change over slowly between like midnight and 4 a.m. I like that snappy changeover. Hamilton and Tissot, ETA movements, they're really snappy about switching over. And my new Tudor Royal, it snaps right at midnight with its Salida movement. Still loving this watch. Absolutely love this watch. It does lose about a second a day. I can't say enough about how much. It's my first entry level luxury watch. I love it. But anyway, back to the Lord Matic. The Lord Matic. It doesn't. It has some lume. I haven't tested the lume. It has some lume on the uh, hour and min hand, I believe. Let me get in there. Make sure that's just not the diamond cutting of the bezel. Actually, I don't know. It might not be loomed at all. Actually, I'm starting to think, trying to hold it at an angle here. No, it looks like, nope, that's just the diamond bezeling. And characteristic of the day, it does have some little rust flecks or spots on the hands. I don't see any on the applied indices. And it has an applied Seiko logo, which is also nice for what would have been like their mid range of watches 40 years ago. So you've got a high movement, a Grand Seiko level quality movement in a mid level watch from 40 years ago. So yeah, not only not only is this vintage, but it's retro. It's very retro 70s. Everything about this screams 70s, from the square dial, the square case to the mesh bracelet. Yeah, I just love it. It's an absolute. It sits on the wrist very well. I'll show you another wrist shot again. And it took some playing with it out of box to figure out what I was supposed to do to get the mesh bracelet to really buckle down. And I find the easiest way is to set it down on its face crystal on like my leg or something. And just to scoot the bar, to scoot the little lever bar, you're not going to be able to see that until it gets close to tight, and then grab the flip switch and click it. Make sure it's completely click sealed. What I like about that you don't have to worry about micro adjustments or any form of adjustments or pins whatsoever. It's just it, at a box. It's very long and it can fit any wrist immediately from big to small. And the extra slack just kind of folds over underneath, but you really don't feel it on the wrist. And this sits really well on the wrist. I have a 6.5 inch wrist, and it's smaller. It's a smaller millimeter size. Watch cases were not that huge in the 70s nor the 80s. This was about right for the time. I'll try to give you a millimeter measurement. Let me find my tape measure. So the case in millimeters, let's see, lug to lug, and this is not precise. This is not 100% accurate. Actually, this would have been easier to do off my wrist. It's actually about 40 millimeters lug to lug. Eyeballing it, it looks maybe 39 millimeters straight across from lug to lug. And across the widthwise across there, let's see, they're about 30, 36, 36 or so from the side all the way to the end of the crown. So, like I said, it does wear a little small. And even though this kind of would have been more of a sporty daily watch for the 70s, I think being as retro as it is nowadays in the modern times, I think this falls more into like a dress watch, being that you're wearing it for a retro style. I think this could easily, especially with the high polish, and different beveled surfaces of the indices and the hands, it kicks a lot of light, and the bracelet is very shiny. I think this could easily fit into a dress watch since you're rocking a retro style, a 70s style, something that's just not really anymore today. But yeah, I do. I love this watch. It's been such a pleasure to own. I'll show it up there again. And it's just such a smooth sweep to the second hand. It's just so smooth being a high beat. But yeah, I think before I start wearing this watch a lot or say to work, I'm definitely going to send it off for a service. And this video is starting to run long. We're over the 16-minute mark. I just wanted to create more content, show you a new watch in my collection. This is the Seiko Lord Matic, and it's a 5602, and this particular one is the 5020. So yeah, there you go. If you're a Seiko fanboy, if you love Seiko watches, you should have a Lord Matic in your collection from the 70s. And I'd highly recommend a 5200. There's 5206, which is this one, and I think there's 5216, either 5216 or 5226. I'm not sure. I'm pretty sure it's 5216. I think they added a 1. They made a slightly better movement after this before they stopped making mechanical movements. And those you mostly have to get out of the Grand Seiko of the time or the King Seikos. I don't know. Maybe there's Lord Maddox with it as well, but I didn't go that route. I went with the 5206. It's still 5200 series family. It's still the resurrected movement that became the 4S, which is hugely popular. Even after Seiko quit using the 4S series, they sold it off to a Swiss company, and I can't remember what it got renamed by the Swiss company, but it's just such an amazing movement with its hacking, its hand winding. I mean, this is a movement that goes back to vintage, to retro 70s, and it's still alive today because it's hand winding, hacking, instant day date change. I mean, it's just such a wonderful movement. So yeah, if you're a Seiko collector like I am, I've been a Seiko collector. I've been into watches collecting for about 6 years now. You should have a 5200 movement in your collection. You should have a Lord Matic or maybe a 70s Grand Seiko or King Seiko. There were two different factories. You should have one just as another piece in your collection. And they're not really losing value at this point. Now they're pretty much retaining their value. I have no doubt. And I had to have this shipped over here, from Japan. A lot of them are Japanese sellers on eBay. But I say get them over here. Get them over here because the mechanical movement is just, it's picking up every year. It's been growing since the 90s, the new millennia, the 2010s. It's just growing, and these are never going to lose value. You can always service them, you can always make them better, and I think these are going to dry up in a number of years. I think in 20 years, any collector that didn't bother picking up these models where you can get them for just less than $200 today or around the $200 mark, I think you're going to be kicking yourselves. I think these are sleepers in the watch community, and when more people realize this, they're just going to snap them all up. There's going to be none available in the next 20 years. But all right, we are now at 19 minutes into this video, so I'm going to be ending it before the 20-minute mark. I am Excelsior Trading. That's my eBay user name, and I am Don Carlo. I'm here in Berkshires, Massachusetts. And I will be coming to you with more content, and most likely in my very sexy house robe. Good night.